Hi, and welcome to this free session on reducing anxiety for teens. So I made this especially for teens because I've discovered that when I work with teens in my sound therapy practice, they're very full of anxiety. And I can tune that out of them with sound and get them to relax, but then when they go back out and are with their peers, they are influenced by the collective vibe. And so this is something to work on, the collective vibe of teenagers. It's not just for teenagers because our environment informs all of us to anxiety to some degree or another. So if you're not a teenager and you're watching this, this will also potentially be beneficial for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to conduct what we call a Biofield tuning session. This is a sound therapy session using tuning forks that can be conducted in person, and it can also be conducted, oddly, at a distance. And so that's what I'm doing here, is conducting a distance session for you. And I'm using my friend Mr. Bones here as a surrogate to hold space for the you that is watching. So in Biofield tuning, the most important thing that we do is breathe. What I have found is that the degree of freedom that you are experiencing in your life is directly related to the degree of freedom you are experiencing in your breath. And the whole reason for doing sound therapy is to get you to breathe better, believe it or not. So we do a very special kind of breathing in this work, and I'm going to teach you that first. So what we want to be able to do is to learn to breathe down into our bellies. A lot of us breathe up in our chests. So we're going to take some breaths together. We're going to first just breathe up in our chest because a lot of us are already comfortable doing that. So take a breath with me, filling up your upper chest and then blowing it out, and make some sound when you exhale. This audible exhalation discharges the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve energizes all the organs in your body, and when you get tense, it tightens up. And so this process of going on the exhale helps it to release and to relax. Okay? The next breath is going to be into our mid-rib area and our diaphragm. So I want you to breathe into this area and notice where you feel any tension. Really pay attention to that. And exhale out. Let's do another one there. And I really want you to use your inner awareness to notice how that diaphragm feels when you try to take a big breath into that area. Okay? Good. And then the last place we're going to breathe is down into our bellies. So we want to take a big breath and really fill up your belly. Make yourself like a happy Buddha and really expand out your belly for a really full breath. And then exhale. Now we're going to do a few more breaths into the belly, but what I want you to do before we do that is I want you to imagine that you can relax the area around your tailbone. So I want you to just take a moment to tune into your root center right at your tailbone. Relax that. Okay? I also want you to relax your legs, and I want you to feel like you got little drain holes at the bottom of your feet. And on our next exhalation, we're going to force the energy of our breath down. You're going to send it down out the tailbone, out the legs, and out the feet. Okay? This is what we call breathing, centering, and grounding. And if you can learn to do this and nothing else, it will help you to manage stress a lot better. Okay? So breathing into the belly, and then exhaling the energy down into the ground. And do that a few times. If you're lying down, you can just send it out your feet. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into working on Mr. Bones. We're going to create a hologram of everyone who is watching live, everyone who will ever watch the video. Your energy is present here. So I'm working on you. And I'm going to conduct a brief Biofield tuning session working with the energetic factors that give rise to the feeling of anxiety in the body. Okay, so we're going to work on the heart, the breath, the brain, the adrenals, all of those things that are engaged when we're feeling anxious. We're going to find those rhythms in the hologram, and we're going to get them to relax and to release and enter into a more coherent and clear expression. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so in Biofield tuning, what we use is, this is a 174 hertz fork. I'm going to activate it on a hockey puck, And I'm going to slowly move in towards the body on the table. And I use this kind of like a needle on an album to read the vibrational information that's present. And different emotional states produce different sounds. As the tuning fork encounters these different areas of distortion, I'm going to report on what they are, and then the sound is going to coax the organizing intelligence of the body to release whatever tension is holding that distortion in place and replace it with a more fluid, free, healthy tonal expression instead. So your job is to pay attention to your breath, okay? Pay attention to how you're feeling. And anytime you start to hold your breath, I want you to send that energy down into the earth. Okay, there we go. So right away I have to breathe because I'm encountering distortion. And I want you to notice your breath and feel like if you need to breathe. Some people notice energy moving in their body right away when they're exposed to this. Some people don't feel anything at all. There's no right or wrong way to experience this, okay? So just see what you notice. You can close your eyes if you want and see how you're feeling in your body. You can watch me, whatever you feel like doing. So as I move in, I'm thinking about the heart rhythm. I'm thinking about the tension in the diaphragm. I'm thinking about our adrenal rhythm and how that gets cranked when we're under stress. I'm also paying attention to the brain and the role that different parts of the brain play in this whole experience we have when we're feeling anxious. So I'm tuning into the signal of all of those parts, and I'm working with that to help it to settle down. So right here, you can hear it's going kind of sharp. So that's a sound that we relate to alarm. So that's when we're not breathing, we have a lot of tension in our system, and that creates a tone of a high quality. So I'm going to stay with that. It's already starting to shift and to change. Everything that we encounter is going to immediately start to shift, because that's what the sound does when you're exposed to it. You're like a self-tuning instrument. And you can hear when you're out of tune, and your body's organizing intelligence will bring you back into tune, which is kind of amazing that just being exposed to pure sound can actually cause your body to shift. And we know this from music, right? And you probably already use music to shift your state. So this is more surgical, it's more precise. It's one sound in a specific area, and that shifts our state. Okay, so here's a really heavy tone. This feels like life is just really heavy. It feels depressing. It feels what we call entropic, which is sort of losing order. Kind of a feeling of like, I don't want to go on. So just by working with that, by staying with that, if that's a feeling that you've had now or in the past, just acknowledging it. It's really important to understand that if you are feeling badly, it isn't really your fault. The work of Bruce Lipton, who's a cell biologist, he says that if you're a cell biologist and you're taking care of a culture of cells and those cells aren't doing well, you're not going to single out cells in the culture and tell them there's something wrong with them. You're going to look at the environment that those cells are living in and responding to. And we're all living in a really stressful environment at the moment. So it isn't your fault that you're feeling stressed. You're a cell in a culture that isn't really healthy. And your nature is actually one of brightness, of light, of playfulness, of enthusiasm about life. Your nature is, when you're grounded and you're connected to the earth and you're able to do what is healthy for you, you become a healthy organism. So this is why I can't treat individuals outside of the context of the culture. So in you participating in this and watching this, we're working on you, but we're also working on the culture at large. that gives rise to this collective feeling. Okay, so there's a little more alarm right here. There's frustration. We're really hitting some of that anxiety current. So I want you to take a big breath into the belly and then exhale down out the feet or out the tailbone. And do that a few times, okay? Breathing into the belly. And if you want to make some noise on that exhale beyond the breath, you can make an ah sound or whatever noise wants to come out. You know, there's more of that alarm. I'm just going to let the body hear itself with that alarm. And it'll go, wow, that's just ringing too high and too fast. And I gotta, like your internal mixer board person is adjusting slides and moving knobs in order to make the feedback it's getting more harmonious, more pleasing to the ear. There we go, that's settling down. Okay, this is coming into the rhythm of the heart itself. So I've been doing this for 23 years, and there's a whole language of vibration that I've learned. And so I've been able to determine, you know, what organ is talking to me, what emotion I'm hearing. It's something that everybody can learn. You know, we've trained thousands of people around the world to do this work, to hear and to work with the body and to help bring it back into tune. So we don't necessarily want to raise our vibration. We want to tune our vibration. We want to find our tonal sweet spot of expression that isn't full of sharps and flats and static and noise, but rather let our human instrument come into tune. Okay, there's another place where you need to take a big breath. It's just kind of a fluttery feel right here. And really using your inner awareness to see what you're noticing as the sound is working in your field. So we do some work over the body, and we do some work in the field. So right here, this feels like the lungs, actually. This feels like the lungs are fluttery. I know that there's a lot of upper respiratory stuff going on out there at the moment, but it feels kind of like like an inability to settle in your own chest. So breathing nice, strong, clear energy, almost like visualizing liquid light really kind of pouring into your lungs and smoothing over any discomfort that's present there in the rib cage and the intercostal muscles, the muscles between your ribs. Good, and then breathing really powerfully into your ribs. So really opening up the rib cage. Once you learn to control your breath more, to become aware when you're holding your breath, to notice when you're locking up and shaking, if you can start to bring your awareness into taking a fuller breath and then breathing down into the ground. Good. Okay, so Biofield tuning consists of 3 basic motions. One is combing that I just did, and then we drop in, we do an adjustment, pick up energy that's stuck and put it back into circulation, moving in the body's central channel that runs along the spine. And then we integrate that energy into the system. And then the third step is to focus that energy. And so we do that by raising the fork up towards the ceiling. So I'm going to do that next. And this just helps us to connect between ourselves and the world at large in a way that's clear and focused, that isn't viewed through the lens of our own emotional upset or our beliefs or our stories, but rather gives us a clear connection into the now so that we respond appropriately to what's going on instead of reacting from a trigger. We really want to do our best to learn to not react from a trigger, because the more triggered you get, the less free you are. And if you want to be healthy and free, you got to learn to control those kinds of responses so that you're not flipping out all the time, not taking things personally, just staying rooted, grounded, stable, breathing. Good. Okay. Another big breath into the belly. This sounds really good. It's nice and clear and focused. That anxiety feeling really stabilized out of there. So just take a moment and see how you feel. I'm going to come and I'm going to do the other side. Okay. Head on over. And same thing that I did on the other side. I am, paying attention to all those systems. I'm just coming in on the other side of the body now. I'm going to probably read some different information over here. So again, just see what you notice. Keep aware of your breathing. So that's a lot of tension. Tension in the body, tension in the thinking, like a freeze almost. When we're under a lot of stress, we go into a freeze response. It's not necessarily fight or flight, it's the freeze. And when we have a lot of freeze, it's very hard to do anything. It's very hard to accomplish what we want to accomplish. So we really want to soften the freeze out of the system and liberate that energy into a state of flow. We want to find the place within us. I'll tell you, at the core of all of us, our factory settings are set to harmony. They're set to balance. That we're not guilty sinners who've fallen from grace and we're doomed to have suffer a miserable time. We actually have within us all the codes for alignment with nature, for alignment with our greatest potential, that everyone has in them the potential for incredible greatness. And this is something that I've seen over and over again. And what gets in our way is the noise in our signal. And so the more we expose ourselves to pure sound, the more we choose to be determined to access our greatest potential, the more we use music or sound to get there, the more possible it is to enter into that state of harmony and flow and balance that everyone is looking for. And I really believe that breath is the key to that, as well as the status of your electromagnetic field, which is what we're working on here. So we've been taught to think of ourselves chemically and mechanically, but we're also electric and we're sonic and we're collections of rhythms and patterns and flows. And when we work on that underlying rhythm and pattern and flow, then that affects the chemical and the physiology, which is an expression of that underlying electric template. And that's what we're working on here. So as I'm coming in, I'm just feeling various kind of bumps that we're kind of slowly working towards the coming back to the center again. And when we get to the center, we're really going to work on anchoring in this coherent field that you want to get to. Because it's not enough to just say, we're going to release and eliminate anxiety. Like, you have to have another state to go to. The absence of one is the gain of another. And so the state that we're looking to get to, so I'm just going to have you imagine this with me. If you've ever been in a forest of redwoods, then you know the feeling. But I want you to imagine that you are in a beautiful forest that has lots of great big ancient trees. And that as you breathe out, they take up what you have exhaled and they transform it into fuel. So they take your exhaust and they turn it into fuel. They turn it into beautiful, coherent electric energy. They ionize that atmosphere. And when you are standing in a forest, it is essentially coherent, it is clear, it is holding all of the feelings that you want to feel to get out of the anxiety state that you're in. So just imagining the sun dappled through the trees, breathing in the light, and feeling the coherent field that is present in nature. So not only is this coherent field present in nature, but in any given moment, there are millions of people around the world who are broadcasting, who are praying, who are contributing to this field. So that you're not alone when you seek to go there and tap into it. That you have the help of millions and maybe even billions of people in the ether who are at some point or another in their day meditating, praying, intending, desiring for humankind to be healthy, to be harmonious, to have a better experience of life here on planet Earth. It isn't something that you need to generate on your own. It's always there. And the support of other people is always present for you. So just bringing your awareness into your inner body, feeling a sense of liquid light flowing through the central channel that goes from the head down the spine and out the feet. Feeling that comes from being good in a coherent field bathed with others. Breathing into the belly, exhaling down into the ground. Breathing into the belly, exhaling down into the ground. Really expanding the chest. Really exhaling all the way down into the ground. And letting the whole interior of your body just fill with light, with calmness, with connection to everyone else who wants to see more of this vibe on this planet. So this is something that you can come back to, you can watch it again, or you can just anchor yourself into that feeling. And if nothing else, you want to remember to breathe into the belly and exhale down in the ground when you're feeling stressed. Okay? All right. Take care.